When clients come in and you see the fear and you see the anxiety and the nervousness of the situation they're in, I love it when at the end of these meetings, I'm able to ask the clients, do you feel better now? And have them say, yes, I feel so much better. Clients are coming to me in the most dire circumstances. Their life and liberty is at stake. I had a young man who was charged with a criminally negligent homicide, motor vehicle accident where he hit and killed an elderly woman that was on her way to a prayer service. So really difficult circumstances and a tremendous tragedy. And this young man never really understood why he was being accused of a felony where he was facing up to 10 years in prison for something that most people would just see as just an accident with a tragic result. One of the things that I want to do is I want to understand what is it that we're dealing with. I want to know where they're at in the process. I want to have a face-to-face dialogue with them. I want to hear their story. I want to know about them, because if I'm going to be fighting for this person, I want to know, what do I have to work with that can benefit the client at the end of the day? And working with him and explaining the process to him really helped set his mind at ease.
A lot of lawyers just come in and they take over and they say, this is the way it's going to be. They don't listen to the client. They don't listen to the evidence. But Brent paid attention to our investigation.
Once the clients have retained me, the next phase of the case is making that initial appearance, whether it's walking into the court for the first time and calling a prosecutor up and sensing that trepidation in their voice because they're thinking to themselves, oh man, this is a really good attorney that I'm going to have to be dealing with here. Appearance in a case is always an important one. I want to come in strong. I want to come in confident. I want the prosecutors and judges to see that I'm prepared to defend my client.
Not only the juries trust Brent, but judges respect him and prosecutors fear him because they know how competent he is.
Once I've made my initial appearance, then we go into the investigation phase. To run a good defense, you have to know what the offense is. And so we have to see what is the evidence that the prosecution has. Figuring out what else do we need to identify, what witnesses do we need to talk to, and that's where the rest of the team at the firm comes into play. Having been a prosecutor and tried so many cases, I've seen what strategies prosecutors can use to get convictions. I've seen and know what works and what doesn't work. And so I'm taking that knowledge and applying them in my own practice as a defense attorney to be able to say, this is a problem and this is how we're going to defeat this.
Being a good criminal defense attorney, you have to be a good storyteller. You have to find the story and then learn how to communicate the story. And if you can't tell the story, then you can't represent your client.
Helping the client to understand the legalities of a trial, from jury selection and knowing what we're looking for in a jury and how we're going to convince the judge to exclude certain jurors and how we're going to use our strikes on certain jurors. I want them to know and be prepared for how we're going to attack a certain witness, how we're going to attack a piece of evidence. In this type of case, he knew exactly how the jury selection process was going to work and what we were going to try to accomplish to help jurors see from the very outset that in order to find someone guilty of this case, it has to be extreme recklessness, and we just didn't have that in this case.
A trial is like a chess game to an extent. You can be an adequate chess player just by looking ahead one move. Brent's 10 moves ahead. By the time Brent gets to trial, even understanding that there's going to be surprises, he has worked it through to a checkmate.
As we worked through the trial and he saw that witnesses were being cross-examined effectively to establish the points that we needed to establish, that his role in this wasn't as much as the state was making it out to see, you could see him get more and more comfortable.
To connect with your jury, you need to have the ability, the personality to try to make that connection with this diverse population that is now your jury. You need to be able to think on your feet. You need to be able to react to surprises and be nonplussed when that occurs. Brent's that type of a trial lawyer. He's authentic, and juries appreciate that.
I love telling clients, if you're not sleeping at night, I'm not doing my job. I want clients to know that if they have a question, if they have a concern, if there's something that they're anxious about, they can reach out to me, not an associate, not a legal assistant. They can reach out to me directly so I can put that fear, that anxiety, that concern to rest immediately. By the end of the trial, they came back and found him not guilty. Turning to him and embracing him, there was this huge sense of relief. He was prepared because I had shown him how we're going to present this case to the jury. So when they came back and they found him not guilty, it wasn't a surprise. It was a true sense of relief.